I shot my father in the leg that night in the Nevada desert. Not to kill him, but to make him feel the weight of every lie he'd buried in my bones. The Veterans Gala was supposed to be his crowning moment, a room full of brass and badges where he'd parade his legacy like a trophy wife. But I turned it into his funeral procession, with me as the uninvited widow. And when his golden boy, the SEAL he'd mentored like a son, stepped up to the podium and branded me the angel of death in front of God, country, and 100 stunned patriots, I knew the revenge I'd simmered for 15 years had finally boiled over into something biblical. It started with a whisper in the confessional booth of a dusty Episcopal church in Reno, back when I was 22 and still believed in absolution. Father O'Malley, with his whiskey breath and rosary beads clicking like loaded chambers, leaned in and said, "Child, some sins aren't yours to carry. They're the devil's hand-me-downs. But mine were." I'd confessed to covering up a hidden run that mangled a hitchhiker on I-80. The kind of accident that could have been chalked up to black ice if not for the blood alcohol level screaming felony. Except it wasn't my truck. It was my father's, Senator Harlan Hawk Whitaker, the war hero who dodged more bullets in D.C. than he ever did in Nam. He'd been 3 sheets to the wind after a fundraiser, swerving home with me riding shotgun. And when the crunch came, he shoved the keys into my trembling hands and growled, "You're the alibi, Lucy. Family first, always." So I lied to the cops, to the DA, to the judge who sentenced me to 3 years in the women's pen at Florence McClure. I did the time. He did the talk shows. Prison wasn't the hell they make it out to be in those gritty Netflix docs. It's slower, meaner, like drowning in oatmeal. Days blurred into nights of folding inmate laundry and dodging whispers about who I'd snitched onto land inside. But the real rut was the letters from home, Mom's perfumed notepaper pleading for forgiveness I didn't have left to give, and Dad's clipped missives, all brass and no soul, reminding me that sacrifice builds character.
Luce.
Just like it did for me in the jungle. Character. That's what he called it when he cashed in on my silence, parlaying the tragic family scandal into a sympathy bump that rocketed him from state senate to the big leagues. By the time I got out, parole-flavored and tattooed with regrets, he was headlining veterans events across the heartland. The guy who lost his little girl to the system but gained a fiercer love for justice. Bullshit. I'd become his ghost story. The punchline he trotted out over steaks and scotches to bond with his old platoon buddies. My Lucy? Tough as nails. But she learned the hard way. Rules are for the ruled. I rebuilt in the shadows of Vegas, waitressing at a dive off the strip, where the slots chimed like funeral bells and the tips came sticky with desperation. That's where I met Jax Harlan, no relation to my old man. Thank Christ, a former SEAL with eyes like storm clouds and a laugh that could disarm a room faster than a K-bar. He was stateside now, running security for high rollers, the kind of quiet muscle that made casino bosses sleep sound. We clicked over late-night shifts, him nursing a Coors and me chain-smoking Camels, trading war stories he actually earned and mine that were forged in family forges. "You're a survivor, Luce," he'd say, tracing the barbed wire ink on my forearm. Not like those posers who wear dog tags as jewelry. I fell hard, the way you do when the world's kicked you in the teeth and someone hands you a cold beer instead of a boot. We married in a shotgun chapel on the outskirts, Elvis officiating via hologram. And for 3 years, it was almost normal, barbecues in the backyard, his SEAL buddies crashing poker nights, me pretending the past was just a bad tattoo. But normal's the luxury for fools. And my father's shadow stretched longer than the Vegas lights. He found us when Jax got tapped for a private gig, protecting Senator Whitaker at a series of VFW rallies pushing his latest bill. Something about veterans' rights and second chances. Irony? That's putting it mildly. Dad pulled strings, called in favors. And suddenly my husband was his right-hand ghost. The protege he'd always wanted but never sired. Hawk's a legend, Jax told me one night, medals glinting on his dress blues as he polished his boots. Says I'm the son he never had. Hell, he even wants to mentor me for politics someday. I swallowed the bile, nodded like a good wife, and started sleeping with one eye open. Because Hawk didn't mentor, he molded. And what he couldn't shape, he shattered. The Betrayal hit like a flashbang in July. Sweltering heat wave turning our A/C-less trailer into a sweatbox. I'd come home early from a double shift, bones aching from trays of watered-down margaritas, and found Jax on the couch, Dad's voice booming from the speakerphone like thunder over the Sierras. She's a liability, son. That rap on her record? It'll tank you faster than a bad op. I covered for her once. Don't make me regret it. Covered for me? The son of a bitch had framed me. My hands shook as I pieced it together from the fragments. Dad's emails to Jax, laced with concerned father poison, painting me as the junkie ex-con who'd drag him down. Worse, Jax had been feeding him intel, my therapy sessions, my night terrors, even the abortion I'd had after a bar fight miscarriage scare. The one I'd buried deeper than Jimmy Hoffa. I did it for us. Loose, Jax confessed when I confronted him, his face crumpling like wet cardboard. Hawk promised me a shot at real power. Said you'd understand. Family first. Right? Family first. Those words again, like a curse etched in my marrow. I didn't scream or throw punches. I just stared at him until the silence cracked him open. Get out, I whispered. And he did, tail between his legs, leaving behind a duffel of his civvies and a wedding ring that felt like a noose. But Dad? Oh. He wasn't done twisting the knife. He invited me to the big gala in Carson City that fall, a reconciliation dinner for veterans. Black tie affair with senators and survivors rubbing elbows under crystal chandeliers. Come home, Lucy girl, his invitation read, gold embossed like a summons from God. Let's bury the hatchet before it buries us. I went, not for olive branches, but for the axe. The ballroom at the Silver Legacy was a sea of stars and stripes. Air thick with cigar smoke and the low rumble of war tales swapped like trading cards. I slipped in late, black sheath dress hugging my frame like armor, hair pinned up to show the scar from that prison shank fight I'd never told Jax about. Dad was center stage, silver fox in a tailored suit, regaling the crowd with yarns from his jungle days, the ones he'd embellished more times than a hooker tells her age. His eyes lit on me like a hawk spotting prey, and he waved me up with that politician's grin. All teeth and no warmth. Ladies and gentlemen, my daughter Lucy, home at last after her detour. She's tougher than any grunt I ever led. But let's be honest, folks, sometimes love means tough love. Right?
Luce?
You forgive your old man for trying to keep you straight? The room chuckled. A ripple of awkward applause from men who'd lost limbs, but not their appetites for schadenfreude. I stood there, microphone heavy in my palm, tasting copper on my tongue. Tough love, I echoed, voice steady as a sniper's breath. Like when you let your little girl rot in county for your DUI. Dad? Or when you turn my husband against me with whispers of family first? Yeah. Real Hallmark material. Gasps rippled out, forks clinking to a halt. His face went the color of bad chili. But before he could sputter, Jax materialized from the wings, his seal protege. Crisp in dress whites, eyes darting like a cornered coyote. What happened next? That's where the desert shooting comes in. But we're not there yet. First, the fallout. Dad's camp spun it as a daughter's cry for help, leaking my juvie record, the one he'd sealed with a judge's favor, to the Reno Gazette-Journal. Headlines screamed, "Senator's scandal spawn strikes again," and suddenly I was viral poison. Doxxed by patriots who called me a traitor to the uniform, despite never serving. Jax? He ghosted harder than a black op. But not before Dad paraded him as the loyal son at pressers. The two of them arm in arm like a queer remake of Patton. I holed up in a Fleabag motel off 395, chain-smoking and plotting. The TV droning Fox News eulogies for my old man's besieged legacy. That's when the secrets started unspooling like bad barbed wire. It began with a burner phone ping from an unknown number. It didn't kill the hitchhiker.
He did.
Check the dashcam footage. Burnt copy in your P.O. box. My heart jackhammered as I raced to the post office in Winnemucca. The envelope fat with a USB drive and a note in spidery script. Truth's a bitch. But she's your bitch now. A friend in low places. The video was grainy. Time-stamped that frozen February night. Dad's truck fishtailing. The thud. Then him wrenching the wheel, barking at me to shut up and drive. No black ice, just a man too drunk on power and Jack to see the road. I'd been his scapegoat. His second chance story. While he climbed the greasy pole of Capitol Hill. Rage boiled. But so did questions. Who sent it? And why now? Digging deeper, I hit-patered in the underbelly of the web, dark pools where ex-military whistleblowers swam. Turns out, Dad's jungle heroics were half myth. He'd fragged his own CO in '68 to cover a black market opium scam, pinning it on a green LT who ate the blame and a Purple Heart grave. The LT's widow? Still alive. Scraping by in a trailer park outside Boise. Nursing grudges, like fine wine. She pointed me to Jax's service records. Redacted but leaky. He'd been Dad's errand boy since BUD/S. Running dirty ops stateside, intimidating voters, burying scandals. And the kicker? Our marriage? Dad's idea. A long con to keep tabs on me. Make sure I stayed buried. Jax wasn't in love. He was on payroll. The protege flipped first. Or so it seemed. A midnight meet at a Bass diner in Elko. Neon flickering like a bad omen. Jax slid into the booth. Hollow-eyed and twitchy. Nursing black coffee. Hawks losing it.
Luce.
The bills tanking. Donors bailing after your stunt. He wants you gone for good. Threats now? My hand itched for the Glock I'd bought off a pawn fence. But I played cool. And you? Still as lapdog. He leaned in, breath sour with fear. I was. Till I found the ledger, off-book slush fund. Payoffs to silence ghosts like that hitchhiker's kin. He's dirty deeper than Fallujah shit. I can help you burn him. But we do it clean. No bodies.
Clean.
What a joke. We schemed in whispers. Leaked the dashcam to a podcaster with a grudge. Tipped the feds anonymously on the ledger. But Jax was a snake in sheep's clothing. Flipping like a bad parachute. 2 days later, he ratted, fed Dad the plan. Spun it as my extortion plot. The senator's security goons tailed me from Reno to the state line, forcing me off the road near Pyramid Lake. Tires screeching on sagebrush gravel. I ditched the rental. Hiked into the dunes. Heart pounding like a war drum. That's when the call came, Dad's voice. oily as ever. You think you can touch me, girl? I've got friends in places that'd make your ink look like kindergarten. Back off. Or Jax here takes the fall for everything. Everything. The word hung like smoke. I pieced it. Jax wasn't flipping to me. He was double-dipping, playing both ends for a bigger cut. The protégé, the loyal son, Dad's mirror, scheming to supplant him once the old man crumbled. Controversial? Hell. It was Shakespeare with silencers. I decided then, no leaks. No feds.
Just us.
In the open, where the veterans could judge. The gala's second act was my endgame. I'd crashed it solo, crashing waves of small talk with a ghost's grace. When Dad dragged me on stage for his tough love roast, the room hung on the hook. My counterpunch landed, exposing the DUI dodge, and the applause died like a dud grenade. Jax hovered backstage, signaling our cue or his betrayal bell. Dad recovered fast, microphone in fist. Lies from a broken girl. My Lucy's always chase shadows. Then Jax surged forward, shouldering past aides, his voice booming like a depth charge. Shut your trap, Senator. She's no liar. She's the goddamn angel of death, the one who ended ops before they started, ghosts before they haunted. I served with her kind in the suck. And Hawk, you used her like ammo, loaded her with your sins, fired her at the wall, then blamed the ricochet. The room erupted, veterans rising, some cheering, others bellowing, traitor. Dad's face twisted, a stroke second away, as Jax yanked the USB from his pocket, slamming it on the podium. Dashcam. Ledger. All here. She carried your cross.
Hawk.
Time you nailed yourself. Pandemonium. Flashes popping. Security swarming. Dad clutching his chest like a bad actor. I locked eyes with Jack's love. Leverage? Didn't matter. As they dragged him away in cuffs. Sirens wailing into the Nevada night. He mouthed it. For us. But I knew better. The twist? That friend in low places who'd sent the footage? It was Jax all along. Scripting the flip to force Dad's hand. Positioning himself as the hero whistleblower. And me? Collateral. The betrayed bride turned patsy once more. He got the book deal. The congressional run. I got the scars and the whispers. We met one last time in the desert. Wind howling off the Sierras like lost souls. He'd come to explain, bourbon bottle in hand, but I had the Glock, warm from the glove box. Angel of death. Huh, I said, sighting down the barrel at his knee, the same way Dad had made me sight his lies. That your endgame, Jax? Ride my hell to heaven. He dropped to the sand, begging. But the shot cracked clean, bones shattering like glass promises. Not fatal, just enough to hobble the protégé. Make him crawl back to whatever foxhole he'd dug. Dad? He lawyered up. Plea bargain to a misdemeanor. Retired to a ranch in Arizona with Mom's ghost and a lifetime of talk radio rants.
Me?
I vanished into the motels of the Midwest, waitressing under aliases. The angel, moniker a badge I wore in mirrors. Happy ending? Tragic? You tell me, did I avenge the girl who lied for love? Or just birth a new monster? The veterans still argue it over beers, splitting hairs on loyalty and lead. Family first, after all. But whose family?